Yep.
Okay. So can you all see my screen, those folks that are remote, Chris and Lynette?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to cover was the issue of folks who have a personal Google account or Gmail account and also a Simon's Rock one. So in this particular screen, if you look here, of course you don't know it, but this is not my Simon's Rock identity, this is my personal identity. So I'm logged into this browser with my personal identity. So the easiest way to fix that is to open a new tab and to go to account.google.com. I think it's singular. And so here you can see that it says welcome, and if I say hi this, and then hi Christy, are you here? Did you get in, Christy? Well, assume so.
Yeah, looks like it.
So anyhow, at this point, you can go up here to the corner and it will show the various Google accounts. I have several. So what I want to do then is to go to my Cedar at simonsrock.edu identity and click on that. Okay, glad to know you can hear us, Christy. So now I have switched over to my Simon's Rock identity. So it's really about fussing with this. If you haven't ever logged into your Simon's Rock Google identity with that particular browser, then you wouldn't see a list when you click below. You wouldn't see your name in the list, but there is that add another account that should work. And then if you do have trouble where it keeps reverting back, then you can use this sign out of all accounts and then sign back in with only your Simon's Rock one, and that'll make sure that you're there. So now that I'm here, I think that everybody remotely at least has figured out the Google Meet stuff. It's relatively straightforward.
Before you go too far, the Simon's Rock account, is that all associated with their email address for the password?
That's correct, right? So you use your same email password, and the important thing to know is that you have to type in your entire email address as the login, which is unlike most of our other logins. That's what that's all about. So if you do then want to go to Meet, let me see if I can. The way that I set this up is the way that Leslie Melvin at Bard recommended, which is to go to Calendar. And so I'll pull up my Simon's Rock calendar in a moment. There we go. So you can see I set up this session, but let me just add another one later in the afternoon so that you can all see. So we sample session, and then the more options. Sometimes if you're on Firefox, I don't think you need to hit this button because it will take you automatically to this page. But this is the trick here, is when you do the add conferencing, you just select the Hangouts Meet, and that gives you this little URL there. that you can then copy into an email. But the really cool thing is that everybody in Simon's Rock universe is listed here, so I can just start typing and add guests to the meeting. Again, if you have a student, just add them to this, and then you're pretty much good to go. Now when I say save, I will get, would you like to send invitation emails to Google Calendar guests? And obviously the good answer is yes. That's how all of you who are here remotely got the invitation, is that I added that. And then I think a couple people checked in after the fact, or maybe at least one. And so I went back and added another guest to this calendar event, and it asked me, would you like to send notification to the new guests? So I'm not going to send, because I don't want Delaney to get an email inviting her to something that we're not doing. So I'm going to say don't send. And now this calendar event is there, and as I said, so Monk already accepted. Here's again the Hangouts Meet. You can email this directly. Sorry, if I can get my mouse to work. There we go. So you can copy and paste that into an email and send that directly to somebody if they're not in the Simon's Rock universe for some reason. So that's the way Meet works. It's all pretty straightforward, and I'm going to now trash this event since that's going to calendar guests. So that's how Google Meet works. I'm in the Meet now, so there was it's a little bit confusing. I have to bring my mouse over here because I have two screens. I'm presenting on one. So now, as you can see in the room, folks, it gives me you are presenting, and so there's a share your screen-ish button. If I weren't presenting, let me turn that off, and I'll say stop presenting. And now at the bottom of my screen, which you remote folks probably can't see, there's a present now option, and then there's also a turn on captions, which is handy if anybody has any accessibility issues. Let's try that and see if it works. This is a test. Are my words being translated? No. Yep. They are. So, can you guys that are remote see that captions that just popped up?
No.
It translated you, and it's showing on my screen. And it's also...
Would it be messages? Where would it be?
It's just down at the bottom of the screen.
You have to turn on your captions.
Ah, okay.
Turn on the captions right
Which
there.
is right there. Got it, okay.
So now, it's like a Siri-like thing where it translates.
Oh, yeah.
As of course it can't spell Siri because it's Google.
It's released.
So that's a handy, but thank you, Manat, for clarifying that. So that's something that if you have a student that wants to see the captions, I guess they turn them on. It's down at the bottom of the screen, Christy. If you just hover over, just bring your mouse over, and there should be a pop-up that comes across the whole screen, and turn on the captions. I'm going to turn them off for us. Yeah. Do those of you who are remote still have them scrolling across your screen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's per user, so only the user who needs to see the text would turn that on. So that seems like a good thing. So the other thing that comes up on that, did you find it, Christy?
So Charlie, while we're waiting for Christy to find it, I was just on another webinar, and I just will point out, what I was told is, captioning works well as long as you're not using specialized language.
Right.
So that would be something people should be aware of. Like,
Right.
I can't use it if I'm going to talk chemistry, because it's not going to do it right.
Right. Right.
You're probably the same for use in biology.
Yeah.
Try over on the right, Christy, there's 3 dots that should give more options. Maybe turn on captions will come up if you click on that. That's at the right of that white bar that appears at the bottom of your screen. Okay. At some point, we'll try to get that solved. We can work one-on-one with you later today or sometime tomorrow. But in any case, I'm going to go back. So on that same white bar that pops up with the turn on captions that got me distracted, there's this present now button. So if I click on present now, it asks me whether I want to present my entire screen or a window. So you can just present one window if you've got that window has everything that you want to present. I'm choosing to do my entire screen, and then I get 2 choices because I'm actually projecting now and I have my laptop screen and the projector screen. So I'm going to share my laptop screen, which made it appear up in the right-hand corner. And so I'm now presenting, but I've got to then go take my mouse into that corner and click on that little icon, and then now everybody should be able to see my screen.
Charlie, does that screen have to be one within Google, or can it be?
No, it could be anything. This is not just within Google.
Okay,
As you can see, if I minimize,
Oh, that's
a
fine.
lot of different.
That's fine, good. That's another one to do.
So now we can.
No, that's great, Charlie, that answers my question.
Charlie, is there a limit to how many people can be on this Meet?
250.
Okay,
So I don't think that
we're good. That's
any
good.
problems at Simon's Rock. That was one of the things that Google did with the pandemic, is that they rolled out this particular service to all of their G Suite for Education customers. It normally wasn't such a high limit, but there are a lot of schools that have much bigger classes than us that can take advantage of that. There is one caveat, and I haven't seen any chatter on this recently, and I don't expect that it's going to be a problem for the Simon's Rock community, but apparently with Google Meet, even though I'm the one who started it, there is possibly a way that one of you other folks that are connected remotely could take over and kick me out. So just so that you're aware of this, the best news about it is that if that happens, there is apparently a log and a record of what transpired. So we can at least after the fact come down on the student who decided to play a prank on the class, if that should happen. But that's the only downside that I've seen. Apparently it's just a very egalitarian thing. So that there's no particular owner the way there used to be, or the way there is with other meeting. So in PowerPoint you would simply choose to present, and then you could simply share the PowerPoint screen itself rather than the whole window, and that would share the PowerPoint. and as you present, then it would appear in this window. So I'm on Linux, so I don't have a version of PowerPoint that works, so that I can show you that. So the next, I think that's most of what I wanted to talk about. Are there any other questions about Google Meet or switching accounts or any of that stuff that I've covered so far? Okay, so the next, I think I haven't seen a, Manat just asked if you can mute participants before they join, and I don't, let me see if we go with the, here are all the settings, so, it does not look like that's possible. So this is something that is going to be,
That's different than Blue Jeans where you.
right, it's a collaborative thing where people can mute themselves.
And that's probably a recommendation everyone should make at the beginning of most sessions. If you have a lot of people, just to limit the background noise that
Right.
go through.
Right, and then the other thing is that as we've seen here, the chat feature where you can type your questions works, you know, much better so that you're not interrupting and then the presenter can see the chat thing. So again, yeah, I like Aaron's suggestion that you know, advise people to mute their microphones. Christy, you're ahead of the game. We'll, I guess I'll move on to talking about Google Classroom. So I'm just going to open up a new tab, and here go to classroom.google. So now, as we can see, it's picking the wrong identity. So I think it's got an option, here we go, to switch to my Simon's Rock one. That was nice of it to announce that and give me that choice. So sorry, I went through that a little bit quickly, but next to my name there was a little arrow, and I clicked on that, which brought up a list of my identities. So we've been testing Google Classroom for some time now. So these are some old Google classes. This is one that I created. This is one that Scott created. And the one on the left is one that Chris Gauthier created this morning. So all of you in the room who have computers, looks like you're on, I'll create a new class and then invite you folks into the class, everybody who's involved here. So the little plus, it's, you know, not particularly intuitive or very intuitive depending on how you think of these things. So create or join a class, so I'm going to say create a class, and we'll call it 12:33:19 remote session. And then I'm not going to add a room to it. I didn't, you know, section I think is optional too. Probably all of this is optional. So now we'll create the class for us. And if I invite students to your class, so again, this is where I was going to go, but it's already got the little help section there. Add students on the people pages or give them the class code to join. So I'm just going to go up to the people page here and add students, or you give them this HJKWFE4 to join. But if we invite our students here, and if I say Kate, are you Catherine? Our sister?
Yeah. I'm already in there too. I just copied the code. You might let you use it.
What's that?
I just copied the code.
Oh,
I'm
you're
already in,
already
yeah.
Here. There we are.
If I forgot somebody, speak up now or forever hold your peace. So,
Oh, it's just giving you an error because of me. It's okay, you can dismiss that.
Way to go, Aaron.
You might have to delete me from your list. But
There we are.
is everyone else getting an invitation? Good.
yes, I think it should go to your email. But we will see you in a minute.
Yep.
So did you get one via your
Yeah.
email? So I think this is, again, it's good to have the experience here. So if somebody has already joined, it looks like it failed, but I think that each time I've done that, you guys might have multiple emails in your inbox for multiple times I clicked invite. So now,
Can I ask a question, John?
of course,
Is this only for a live class, like,
no, this is a useful thing, just like Moodle for doing assignments
okay,
and other quizzes.
okay, good.
I've
So,
done my academy homeworks that way. You
Really?
can schedule them to come live at a certain time and then close at a certain time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're way ahead of me.
Yeah, no, so the kids told me about it last year, and I love it.
Really?
It's so much easier.
so when that is in, Sue, did you not get an email?
I did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I may ask you to log into Google before you are able to join.
I didn't bring my laptop, so.
No, that's fine. As soon as you did. So, Christy, you want me to wait for you? Are you able to join the classroom? It says you're still in invited state. Sue got in, great. Okay. All right, so now that we've got this, so, let's see what this is just what they call the stream, which has everybody's chat, so you can communicate back and forth here. And then in the classwork, this is where you can create assignments and questions and use topics to organize. So you can create a topic. I'll just go up here and show you if I create a topic. So back to, if we want to create an assignment or a quiz assignment or a question, within your assignment, add or create, so you can, this can be fairly complex. I'm not going to dive into all the details, but I just wanted to show you, so you can add instructions and you can add documents here.
So this is similar to the way Moodle will handle
Yes,
assignments.
yes it is. And the one advantage with using Moodle, which I wasn't planning on talking about it extensively today, is that in Moodle you don't have to do that first step because your students are already populated within the Moodle class. So in some sense, the other part, which I wasn't sure when to address, is that in China, in mainland China, there is a problem with the Great Firewall blocking Google stuff. So Moodle may be a better option. If you're doing something where you're trying to video stream like we are today here, Skype may be the best option for China. So I'll touch on Skype in a little bit here to show you how you do groups in that. Again, all of these technologies have various pros and cons, but Moodle is the one that I guess I feel like we should be pushing encouraging the most, unless there's some specific reason why Moodle doesn't work, because we've got a fairly good base of users where I think that the number of professors who have used Google Classrooms and can come to the aid of the rest of us are smaller than they are with Moodle. And Brian in the library has some pretty extensive Moodle knowledge. So with regard to, it's always asynchronous, Chris. There is no way to stream within Google Classroom, so you would have to schedule a Google Meet. There was another question there that I missed. Was that somebody else said?
Zoom. Yeah.
Zoom. Yeah, Zoom is good. I think that for the free version of Zoom, there's a 40-minute limit on how long your session can be. We have not bought a session. We've not bought a license for Zoom so that we can do longer than that, but it should work for shorter gatherings. And again, basically I'm going on hearsay as to what I haven't traveled to China and tested out, but apparently the Google products are blocked. So the word that I've gotten is that if you have students in your class in China, probably Skype is the best way to connect synchronously. As far as the benefit of using Google, I guess, the benefit is, I guess, compared to what? Compared to Moodle, probably not. So, we just wanted to try to show folks that are interested in, as many options as possible. Obviously in Moodle, you can't do what we're doing right now, which is streaming video and presenting things in a synchronous fashion. But that's another concern that I think that we've all seen discussed on various lists, is that there may be students who aren't going to have the opportunity to join a streaming session at a particular time. It may be because they don't have a high-speed internet at home, or that they're isolating with their parents who are working from home and using the only computer with a webcam in the house, or maybe there's none. So in that sense, Moodle is really the best option. The setting up forums and having discussion boards that go on via that students can check in at whatever time works best for them and respond asynchronously. So that's going to be a pretty good solution for that. As far as Google versus other streaming things, my feeling is that some of this technology may start to see a load, and I'm just a cynical person in general, as everybody in the whole world is self-isolating, and there's a lot more folks trying to leverage these technologies. It may be that some of them bog down. I think that Google would be the one that I would expect to get that last because of the amount of infrastructure that they have, the ability to spin up new servers and take care of the load. So, but again, that's only my own personal feeling. It may be that Zoom does perfectly fine, Skype does perfectly fine. Microsoft is obviously a big company too, and should be able to handle the load for Skype, which they own.
Charlie, just one point that was brought up the other day, students submitting something, if it's a large file, Moodle will stop it at 20
Right.
for a student submission, whereas Google,
Right.
they can drop it into a Google Drive, and that's easy.
Right. So that's another thing that I think it's worth, it may be, I'm not the best one to lead this, but so, drive.google.com, and this is now got my other identity, so I'm going to switch back to my Simons Rock one. So in Google Drive, this is a good way. Again, there's a little bit of overhead with trying to set up. So in shared drives, you can create a shared drive for each of your classes.
Folders at the top there.
So if you create a folder, yeah, that's not going to do a shared drive though, I don't think. So if we go to shared drives, and then new shared drive, just name it, and then I'm not going to go through adding every single one of you, but this, as I recall, this takes a few seconds to populate. So testing remote is over here. The shared drive is empty. So up here at the top, you can see the add members. And it's a matter of, again, since we're in Google Space, this is a little bit easier. It's just a matter of typing in the members of your class, and you'll just have to do this once. And then I'm not going to go through the steps of adding everybody else, but the other part here. So then, in order to organize it better,
And just as a note, if you create a shared drive, everybody you invite has access to it. So if you're trying to keep work separate, don't do it this way. But if you don't mind that people can critique other people's work, this works.
right.
I was going to ask that question, Mark. Thank you.
So if what you want is to have students be able to hand in things that others don't see, then Moodle is the answer.
Or classroom.
What? Or classroom, right. So, sorry, we sort of wandered a little bit far afield here, and let's go back to classroom. So, if we go to create a there are other things that we can do here. So create a question.
This would be a good, is it like a response journal type of thing?
Yes, and that is definitely the case, that the shared drive is good for sharing stuff. Again, Moodle can work well for that. We just there's a different limit for professors. Professors are allowed to upload a much larger file than students are. So you can do some sharing, but if you've got, for instance, videos, the space limitations on Google are theoretically infinite. You can upload as much data as you possibly want to your simonsrock.edu Google account, which includes any shared drives or shared folders. And the shared drive is just one way to accomplish it. You can simply create a folder and add sharing on that. The advantage of the shared drive for a classroom, for a class unit, is that you only have to get the list of names once and put it in there, and so then you would be good to go. Whereas if you're sharing individual folders, you may have to repeat, and say, I want to share it with these people again and again and again. So that sounds like a short answer that I would ask. I think I forgot to.
No, it just popped up, Charlie.
No, I know, but I didn't put it in the herpetology subsection. So, this basically there's other mechanisms that you can use here to create materials or to reuse posts. The topic is just an organizational thing, and again, this stream seems to be a way to communicate with folks, but again, I think that Moodle's forums are a little bit better suited for that, because this is just one single stream where everybody's posts get mixed in the time that they come through. So, any other questions on Google Classroom? Okay, then I guess I'll get to the final thing that I wanted to touch base on, which is Skype. So if you have used Skype before, hopefully you can get back into it. I've been helping Nancy Bonblaine. She was not able to get into her old account, so she fought with it. It seems that they're making it harder and harder to sign up for a Skype account unless you sign up for a Microsoft account. Those of us who have done Skype in the past may have our account associated with a non-Microsoft account, but in order to create a new one, the way that I found worked for Nancy is that I set up an account for her, an email address at outlook.com, and then was able to create using that identity, and that worked out. But she's going to try to use that for her tutorial, and the options here are for video calls and voice calls. And if you do a voice call, what it means is it just won't turn on your camera, but you will see the other person's video if they have it on. And then in terms of, so if we go and look at my profile. So, you can see here the Skype name. This is what you would want to share with your students. Mine ends up being fairly human readable because again, it was added some time ago. The new ones don't seem to do that, or maybe it matters how you do that. If we go look at Nancy Bondlane and review her profile, the one that I just created for her yesterday, and then we're going to scroll down to see it. So what she needs to share with her students is, you know, a lot less readable. So, you know, that particular string identifies her so that people can find the current one rather than her old account, which she can't get into. So you would want to share that via email with your students. They would add your Skype ID, and then generally this is the first thing that we would do is you then wave to that person. Yes, I guess that's true. Does it break privacy? I guess I don't understand the question on that. Do you want to turn on your mic?
Charlie,
Yeah.
I was just asking in terms of like, if a transcript gathers everybody's conversation and then it's sent, I'm just trying to sort out from all the articles that are being sent around in terms of privacy issues now that we're moving everything online, and I'm just wondering, does that fall under, like I'm thinking about the pros of accessibility, but then, you know, the, not cons, but the, I don't know, disadvantages or issues around privacy. So I'm just trying to rectify both.
Sure. I don't necessarily have any specific guidance, and you know,
I don't either.
It's a great question. It's just not something that I've actually thought about yet. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. I think that with respect to privacy, I guess you were more talking about the Google closed captioning type thing where it's recording a transcript as opposed to just...
No, I said we could do transcript as well. When you were hovering down on Nancy's profile, it had options for translation and transcript.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I hadn't actually noticed that detail. Go ahead.
So I'm also an online student, and it's pretty regular practice for us to record our casual classroom conversations that we have in video format and to share transcripts of that within our network. So for us, I can only access transcripts or recordings of conversations with my classmates through my school email address. So within Skype, as long as those students are accessing the material through their assignments or our email, that to me appears to be a reasonable use of that information. Does that make sense?
Oh, sorry, maybe I misread it. I thought it said there's a transcript. I'm sorry.
No, it's translation is what it looks like.
Got it.
So,
Yes.
but it's a good question for the Google closed captioning too. And, you know, I think that, you know, the other thing is that, you know, I don't think it's going to be a surprise to anybody that, you know, the information that they're sharing with this is going to be available for, you know, whoever's on the other end to do whatever they want with it. So, it's, you know, not a great answer, but, you know, hopefully it's not going to take anybody by surprise. And if there is issue, then I'm not sure what the answer is. You know, go to Moodle and, understand that, the same thing, if you, certainly your professor has the discretion of any assignments that you hand in, and you're not sharing them with everybody else, but, I guess the same issue used to exist in a classroom setting, in that, it's possible for somebody to turn on the audio recorder on their phone while they're sitting in the classroom and capture everybody's discussion. We normally feel like that would be a violation, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. So, yeah, I don't really have any specific guidance on that, but I'll try to ponder it and see what I can come up with.
In many large lecture situations,
Sure.
in a large lecture situation, that was almost a given to keep notes.
Right. Right. So that's it. The only other thing I wanted to show you about Skype is that once you've got people that once you've made a connection, you can see I've got Ann O'Dwyer down here and Chris, who, believe it or not, his first name is Henry. And so these folks are in my favorites list. So that would be the first thing, and once your students, make contact with you on Skype, to add them to your favorites list. And then you go to new chat, and then to new group chat, and, and so it'll allow me to pick out the folks that I've made contact with before. So I'll grab Delaney again, although I've heard two versions of Delaney. And so now we say done. And so at this point, if I go up here and I click on this, it will dial all of those people at once. And just like we're doing in Google Meets, you can have a group Skype conversation. And if you don't want your video on, either you can disable your video or you can make the audio call.
And again, is there a limit to how many on Skype?
I think Skype is 50, so it shouldn't be an issue for any of us. So I think that's most of what I had prepared to present, but I'm happy to answer any other questions anybody has.
David, can I ask you a question, and then Chris, you can intervene? So David I'm totally new to Google Classroom, and David, you seem to love it. What do you love about it more than Moodle?
Students can actually write in the document, and they have the full access of Google Doc to them. So if they need to put a subscript or a superscript, they can put it in. If they need to write in, let's say, Microsoft Word, they can do that, and then they can just bring it into their Google Doc.
Okay, so it's just a little more convenient for the students?
Yes.
For you?
Also the scheduling. I've written assignments for the next 3 weeks, and they're scheduled to come live at certain times.
Okay.
There is a way to do some of that in Moodle, I think.
Yes. The only thing I haven't figured out how to do is put a time limit on, let's say, a quiz.
Right.
And I can open it, I can close it, I just can't say you only have 1 hour to do this.
Okay.
In Classroom. I think Moodle does have a way of doing that.
Yeah, I think that we were talking about that last week in the library for Brian's session, and my understanding is that there's a way to close, but it's tricky because there's several different triggers, right? There's one where you say, okay, this is the time that I want you to respond, but then people can still provide a late answer or a late submission.
Right.
And then there's a way to hard cap it and say not even accept anymore.
Yeah.
But Brian was saying that with the way that online stuff works, it's really better off if you allow them, it'll come in flagged as late and it'll
Yes.
tell you how late it is, so you can take that into consideration when you're grading. But, you know, it might be more frustrating if they come in and they can't even submit
Gotcha.
afterwards.
Yeah, see, classroom, well, let it come in, but it will flag it and say, you know, David Myers submitted homework 3, 2 minutes late. And then you can decide, okay, yeah, tech issues really suck, I'm gonna accept that. Or, you know, George submitted problem set 6 hours late. Well, okay, that's a little, unfair. Thank you, Charlie.
Sure.
Let me answer that.
Anybody else?
Just again, if anybody does have any questions, since this video will go up, just contact us at ITS or the library, and we're all here to help.
All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you.